Hi everybody, Paul here again. One of the major components on the air conditioning system in your vehicle is called a compressor clutch. This plays a major role in providing cool air. This is what a typical air conditioner compressor looks like, which will be located by the front of the engine, by the drive belt. You'll also see two refrigerant lines attached to it, like you see here. The AC compressor clutch is located here on the outside of the pulley wheel. The clutch only turns when it's called upon to circulate refrigerant through the air conditioner system. So the clutch turns on and off as needed to deliver cool air. The clutch system is electromagnetic, which is what allows it to engage or disengage from the compressor pulley wheel. The clutch system consists of a clutch, a pulley bearing, and a clutch coil. If the air conditioner control button on your vehicle ever starts flashing like you see here, then this is a warning sign that the clutch on the compressor is not turning like it's supposed to. So the question is, why is the clutch not turning? This can be due to a number of different reasons, which I'm going to cover next. The first and most common reason why the clutch will not turn is because the vehicle was sitting outside with the windows rolled up and it's simply too hot inside the vehicle. First turn the air conditioner off and roll down all the windows. After driving the vehicle for a few minutes, turn the air conditioner back on. This next reason might seem a little silly to mention, but just so you know, if it's too cold outside, the clutch will not turn. Another reason the clutch will not turn is because the magnetic clutch relay is faulty. This will usually be located in the engine compartment. Simply remove the fuse and relay box cover. On the inside of the cover, you'll see labeled what each fuse and relay is for. Here's the magnetic clutch relay, abbreviated MGCLT. With the key out of the ignition, first remove the magnetic clutch relay. As long as your horn works, remove the horn relay and reinstall it where the magnetic clutch relay goes. Now start the vehicle and turn the air conditioner back on. If the clutch starts turning, then you know the original magnetic clutch relay is bad and needs to be replaced. Another reason the clutch will not turn is due to a faulty cooling fan. Your vehicle will have one or two cooling fans. Even if just one of the two cooling fans is not working, this can prevent the clutch from turning, which was actually the problem with this vehicle. Another reason the clutch will not turn is because the drive belt that turns the pulley wheel is broke and needs to be replaced. Another reason the clutch will not turn is because the drive belt is slipping on the pulley wheel. This can be due to a glazed or cracked drive belt that needs to be replaced. This can also be due to a drive belt that needs to be manually adjusted with more tension. Number 11 is a compressor not receiving the proper voltage. Another reason the clutch will not turn is because the air conditioner system does not have enough refrigerant or because it has too much refrigerant. This can happen due to a refrigerant leak somewhere in the system. This can also happen due to adding too much refrigerant. Another reason the clutch will not turn is because the clutch is simply worn out from being used. So here's how to tell if the clutch is bad. With the vehicle turned off, first check to make sure that the clutch turns freely by manually turning it with your hand. Most AC clutches are designed to turn freely when disengaged. If the clutch will not turn freely, then more than likely the pulley wheel is seized. This will require removing and disassembling the compressor to determine what's wrong. If the clutch turns freely, then disconnect the electrical connection as shown here, which will be located right by the clutch. Next, take a digital multimeter and place it on 200 ohms. Typically, a clutch coil should be between 2 to 5 ohms. Any reading below 2 ohms or over 5 ohms indicates a bad clutch coil. Now touch the two probes from the digital multimeter to the two electrical connection contacts by the clutch. This reads 4.3 ohms, so the clutch coil is good. You can also test the clutch by using your car battery. Take two wire leads and attach one to the positive and one to the negative battery terminal. Now take the other ends of the two wire leads and touch the two electrical connection contacts by the clutch. This should cause a clicking sound and cause the clutch to move in and out. If it does not, then the clutch is bad and needs to be replaced. This clutch is good. Another reason the clutch will not turn is due to a faulty speed sensor, also referred to as a lock sensor. This sensor will be located on the back side of the compressor or on the bottom side of the compressor. The speed sensor on this compressor is located on the bottom side here. To know if the speed sensor is faulty, you'll need to check the ohms of the speed sensor, which will have two wires like you see here. By disconnecting the main electrical connection on the compressor here, I can check the ohms. You'll need to obtain the ohms and temperature specifications for your specific vehicle in a repair manual, or you may be able to find it by doing a Google search. The speed sensor on this vehicle should be 65 to 125 ohms with the air temperature at 68 degrees Fahrenheit. The actual air temperature right now is 75 degrees Fahrenheit, so the ohms will read a little higher. With the key out of the ignition, take a digital multimeter and place it on 200 ohms. Now touch the two probes from the digital multimeter to the two electrical contacts of the speed sensor. This reads 99.7 ohms, so the speed sensor is good. Another reason the clutch will not turn is due to the compressor not receiving voltage at the electrical connections, so let's see how to check for voltage. With the key out of the ignition, first disconnect the electrical connection for the clutch, which will be located here by the clutch, next to the pulley wheel. Next, take a digital multimeter and place it on 20 DC volts. Attach the first lead from the digital multimeter using an alligator clip to the positive battery terminal. Notice when I touch the second probe lead to the negative battery terminal, the battery voltage is 12.57 volts. Now take the second probe lead and check the two electrical contacts inside the connection. One of the contacts should show close to the same battery voltage. The first contact shows no voltage. The second contact shows 12.57 volts, so the electrical connection to the clutch is getting voltage. Again, with the key out of the ignition, disconnect the other electrical connection here on the compressor. This electrical connection will usually have a black, white, and possibly a green wire like you see here. Again, keep the digital multimeter on 20 DC volts while still attached to the positive battery terminal. Next, take the second probe lead again and check the black and white wire electrical contacts inside the connection. Both contacts should show close to the same battery voltage. The black wire shows 12.57 volts. The white wire shows 12.45 volts, so the electrical connection to the compressor is getting voltage. Next, check the green wire if you have one. The easiest way to perform this test is with two people. You'll need two probe leads for the digital multimeter. Be sure to keep your hands away from any moving drive belts, cooling fan blades, or hot surfaces. Again, keep the digital multimeter on 20 DC volts. For the first test, I'll touch one probe to the black wire connection and the other probe to the green wire connection. Next, I have someone else start the car and then turn the air conditioner on with the blower on low, medium, or high. As soon as the air conditioner turns on, you should get a voltage reading which tells you the electrical connection is getting voltage. However, because the electrical connection is disconnected, after a few seconds, it may show no voltage, which is normal. The reason it may do this is because the computer senses no voltage going to the compressor, so the air conditioner system turns off. Now I'll perform the actual test. Okay, start. Okay, stop. As you can see, the electrical connection to the compressor is getting voltage. Next, I'll perform the exact same test, except this time I'll touch one probe to the white wire connection and the other probe to the green wire connection. Okay, start. Okay, stop. As you can see again, the electrical connection to the compressor is getting voltage. If you're not getting voltage to the compressor, then it may be due to faulty wiring or corrosion. It may also be due to failure of another component in the air conditioner system. Another reason the clutch will not turn is due to a faulty pressure switch as shown in this picture. A pressure switch will be located on both the low pressure side and on the high pressure side of the air conditioner system. These switches act as a safety device which prevent the compressor clutch from turning if the refrigerant pressure is too low on the low pressure side or is too high on the high pressure side. If the pressure is too low, the compressor can be damaged due to low oil. If the pressure is too high, the compressor can be damaged due to overheating. Another common symptom of a bad pressure switch on either the low pressure side or the high pressure side is the compressor clutch will turn on and off rapidly when the air conditioner is on and the vehicle is idling, making it unable to properly cool the vehicle. The easiest way to locate the pressure switch is to follow the AC lines coming out of the compressor. The larger line will be your low side pressure switch, and the smaller line will be your high side pressure switch. Number 3 is there's not enough refrigerant or there's too much refrigerant. Number 4 is a refrigerant leak. The low side pressure switch on this vehicle is located past the firewall here by the AC lines inside the dashboard. Removing the dashboard can require hours of labor, so before removing the dashboard, it would be wise to first have a repair shop check the low pressure switch with an advanced diagnostic scanner to confirm that the switch is bad. The high side pressure switch will be located on the smaller line and will usually be located at the front of the vehicle by the condenser. The high side pressure switch on this vehicle is located right here. In order for the air conditioner to work, both the low pressure switch and the high pressure switch must be in the closed position. When the switch closes, it causes a complete electrical circuit, which then allows the compressor clutch to turn. Number 8 is a faulty compressor clutch. Before bypassing the pressure switch, disconnect the electrical connection to the pressure switch and check to make sure it has voltage. Turn the ignition key to the on position, but do not start the vehicle. Now check for voltage with the digital multimeter on the DC position. And as you can see, we have 11.83 volts. To bypass a pressure switch, get a piece of wire that's 3 inches long. Strip some insulation off each end and bend it into a U shape like you see here. This piece of wire is 18 gauge solid copper, which is what I like to use. A pressure switch electrical connection will have 2, 3, or 4 electrical contacts. For demonstration purposes, I'll first show how to perform a bypass test on this drawing, and then I'll do an actual test. If you have 2 electrical contacts, then test the bypass wire ends on the 2 contacts. This is now correctly bypassed. If you have 3 electrical contacts, then test the bypass wire ends here, here, and here. One of these combinations will be the correct bypass. If you have 4 electrical contacts, then test the bypass wire ends here, 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 and here. One of these combinations will be the correct bypass. Again, if the clutch will not turn, but starts turning when the pressure switch is bypassed, then you have a bad pressure switch which needs to be replaced. If the clutch does not turn after the pressure switch is bypassed, then the pressure switch is good and something else is causing the clutch not to turn. Now I'll do an actual bypass test. The outside temperature should be at least 60 degrees Fahrenheit to be sure the air conditioner system will operate. This pressure switch is good, but by disconnecting the pressure switch electrical connection, this will simulate a failed pressure switch in the open position, causing an open circuit, which means the clutch will not turn. As you can see, this has 4 electrical contacts. With the pressure switch electrical connection disconnected, start the vehicle. Next, turn the air conditioner on maximum cool with the blower on high. You'll also want to lower all the windows or open all the doors. As you can see, the clutch is not turning. As you can see, by placing the bypass wire ends on these 2 electrical contacts, which were the correct combination, the clutch is now turning. If you do have to replace a pressure switch, make sure your system has a built-in check valve, which will prevent refrigerant from escaping once the switch is removed. Otherwise, the refrigerant will have to be removed prior to removing the pressure switch. Another reason the clutch will not turn is due to a faulty evaporator temperature sensor, also referred to as a thermistor, as shown in this picture. These come in all different shapes and sizes. Number 1 is it's too hot inside the vehicle. Number 2 is it's too cold outside. Another common symptom of a faulty evaporator temperature sensor is when the air conditioner is turned on, the temperature of the air coming out of the vents will fluctuate. Here's an evaporator temperature sensor, and this is the temperature probe. The way the sensor works is it sends different readings based on how hot or cold the temperature probe is. This information is then used to turn the compressor clutch on and off to maintain cabin temperature and to prevent the evaporator from icing up. To determine the exact location of the evaporator temperature sensor, you'll need a repair manual, or you might be able to find it by doing a Google search. The sensor is commonly located on the passenger side and on the side of the condenser that's closer to the rear of the vehicle. Depending on the make, model, and year, you may be able to gain access to the sensor fairly easy by looking underneath the dashboard or behind the glove box, or by removing a few plastic panels, or by removing the radio. Other vehicles will require the dashboard to be removed partially or completely to gain access to the sensor. This can be very complex and time-consuming and may require specialized tools. If the dashboard requires disassembly to gain access to the sensor, then it would be money well spent taking the vehicle to a trustworthy mechanic who can check the sensor without having to gain access to the sensor by checking it with an advanced diagnostic scanner. If you're able to gain access and remove the sensor, then you can use a digital multimeter to check the function of the sensor. These sensors use resistance or ohms output. As the sensor cools down, the ohms go up. As the sensor heats up, the ohms go down. Also be sure to check for voltage and corrosion at the electrical connection that plugs into the sensor. To test the sensor, I'll turn the digital multimeter on the 20K or 20 thousandths ohm position. Next, place the 2 test probes on the 2 electrical contacts. It doesn't matter which color test probe goes on which side. Usually these sensors will show a plus or minus reading of around 2000 ohms at a room temperature of 65 degrees Fahrenheit. As you can see, this sensor reads 2180 ohms. Next, place the temperature probe in a glass of cold water. If the ohms go up, then the sensor is good. This sensor is good. Next, place the temperature probe in a glass of hot water. If the ohms go down, then the sensor is good. This sensor is good. You can also bypass the sensor by jumping the two electrical contacts at the electrical connection that attaches to the evaporator temperature sensor. Just take a 3-inch piece of wire, strip some insulation off each end, and bend it into a U-shape like you see here. This happens to be 18-gauge solid copper, which is what I like to use. If the clutch starts turning after bypassing the sensor connection like you see here, then this indicates that the sensor is bad and needs to be replaced. Be advised that if you do not replace the sensor and leave it bypassed, the compressor will run continuously and cause premature wear. The evaporator may also ice up and not allow the cabin to cool properly. I hope you found this helpful, and if you like this video, please hit the like button below, share it with your friends, and please be sure to subscribe. God bless you and have a great day. Bye for now. And while you guys are fixing your vehicle, Sparky and I will be recycling ourselves.